All right, so today we're going to be discussing fuels, which is part of Unit 3, Area of Study 1 of VCE Chem. And specifically, according to the study design dot points, we're going to be talking about the definition of a fuel, which includes the distinction between fossil fuels and biofuels with reference to origin and renewability. And we're also going to be discussing the comparison of fossil fuels and biofuels with reference to energy content, renewability, and environmental impacts related to sourcing and combustion. So essentially, we're going to be talking about what is a fuel, and especially we're going to be talking about the sort of important aspects of that definition when it comes to relating it to the different types of fuels, which is also something we're going to discuss. And when we talk about the different types of fuels, we're specifically going to be talking about two types of distinctions. Those distinctions are going to be fossil versus bio, as the study design dot point suggests. And we are also going to be talking about renewable versus non-renewable. We're also going to be talking about the interplay between them. So like what fossil fuels are non-renewable, renewable fuels that aren't biofuels, etc., etc. And finally, we're going to be comparing and contrasting these different types of fuels and their strengths and weaknesses. All right, so we're going to start off with discussing what is a fuel. Now, this might seem like a bit of a silly question or something that's pretty straightforward, but it's really important to understand what VCAR wants you to understand and what they really want you to say when you get asked a question like this. So the main thing is you need to say that it's a substance that has stored energy that can be released fairly easily. And usually this energy is released in the form of heat, or it can be released as power to perform some sort of work. So it's easily released, and it's this sort of, when we talk about this in the context of chemistry, this substance is going to have the stored energy in the form of chemical energy. So that's going to be in the bonds between the different molecules in the compound. So when we discuss sort of how good a compound is at being a fuel in terms of how much energy it can release, it really comes down to sort of how much energy is stored within the bonds, and it kind of puts everything into context in that regard. So the next thing we're going to discuss now is sort of the different types of fuels. So as I mentioned earlier, there's sort of two main distinctions we want to discuss, and that is renewable versus non-renewable. And we're going to discuss that first. So when we talk about renewable energies, or renewable fuels, I should say, we're really saying something that is replenished by natural processes faster than the usage rate. And when we talk about non-renewables, we're really just saying the opposite. When we're saying something's non-renewable, we can't renew it, or we can't get it back again faster than we use it. So it's something that's limited in the sense that if we keep using it at the same rate, it's not going to be there much longer. So when we talk about further on, when we talk about fossil and biofuels, all biofuels are renewable fuels, and all fossil fuels are non-renewable. But there are also some fuels like wind and solar, which are not biofuels, and they're also renewable. And there's also fuels like nuclear power or things like that, which are not fossil fuels, but they're also non-renewable. And the second type of distinction that we're going to talk about, and this is the main sort of one we're going to talk about, is bio versus fossil. So we're going to first start off by discussing what these different types of fuels are by definition. So by definition, a biofuel is a fuel derived from organic matter. Now, usually this organic matter is going to be something like plant matter, like sugarcane, wheat, vegetable oil, things like that. But it can also be from animal manure and things like that as well. And when we talk about fossil fuel, it comes from dead biomass. So dead biomass is just essentially like decaying plants and animals. And over millions of years, it's sort of compressed and become things like crude oil or coal or different sort of things like that. But that's basically the main distinction between the two. And an important thing to understand is, as I mentioned before, all biofuels are renewable and all fossil fuels are non-renewable.